The MotoGP world has once again been shaken by surprising news after Marc Márquez was reportedly sending an open letter addressed to Aprilia and Marco Bezzecchi ahead of the Brazilian Grand Prix. The bold move from the world champion immediately sparked widespread speculation in the paddock, as the message is said to be related to the growing rivalry and a firm statement ahead of the upcoming battle on track. This situation has made the atmosphere leading up to the race even more intense. So what exactly was written in the open letter that Marquez sent to Aprilia and Bezzecchi? Let's discuss. The new MotoGP season has begun with plenty of surprises. The opening round of the 2026 MotoGP season, held at the Chang International Circuit in Thailand, immediately delivered major drama that few had predicted beforehand. Many analysts initially expected Marc Márquez to dominate from the very first race. However, the reality turned out quite differently. Instead of dominating, the world champion had to endure a rather difficult race weekend. On the other hand, the biggest surprise actually came from Aprilia Racing, which looked highly competitive throughout the weekend. Their bike showed consistent performance from the practice sessions all the way to the main race. One rider who stole the spotlight was Marco Bezzecchi. The Italian rider delivered an outstanding performance and demonstrated impressive consistency, leading many people in the paddock to start talking about Aprilia as a new force this season. The Aprilia machine looked extremely fast at the Buriram circuit, even putting significant pressure on major teams like Ducati. For Marc Márquez himself, the result in Buriram was clearly far from ideal. The rider, known for his aggressive and highly competitive style, is usually accustomed to running at the front of the pack. However, after the race ended, Márquez did not try to make excuses for the less-than-perfect result. In interviews with several Spanish media outlets, he spoke very openly about the situation he is currently facing. According to him, the opening race did not go as planned, but the season is still very long. He stated that the team already understands which areas need improvement, and their main focus now is preparing better for the next race. This statement shows that Márquez does not want to dwell too long on the disappointment of the opening round. His focus has already shifted to the next challenge. The attention of the MotoGP paddock is now turning to the next round, which will be held at the Brazilian MotoGP. The race is predicted to be one of the key moments in the early part of the season, as many teams are still trying to find their best performance after a surprising opening round. In the interview, Marc Márquez openly stated that he is very optimistic about returning to strong form in that race. He emphasised that the team is currently working hard to improve the bike's performance and fix several technical aspects that are still not at their best. Márquez also admitted that he is ready to give his absolute best when he returns to the track and plans to ride more aggressively from the practice sessions all the way to the main race. This confidence is certainly not without reason. Throughout his MotoGP career, Márquez has been known as a rider who is extremely tough when facing pressure. His champion mentality has often allowed him to turn situations around, even when he is in the most difficult circumstances. Several times during his career, he has gone through challenging periods, ranging from serious injuries that once threatened his career to various speculations about his future in MotoGP. Yet every time he faced such situations, Márquez managed to rise again and deliver extraordinary performances that forced his rivals to stay alert. That is why many analysts believe that when Márquez feels challenged, that is exactly when he becomes even more dangerous for his rivals. If that comeback momentum truly happens at the Brazilian MotoGP, the race could become the stage for a major resurgence of the world champion who has long been known for never giving up on the track. Interestingly, in the same interview, Marc Márquez also made a firm statement about his target for the next race. He emphasised that he wants to avenge his defeat to Aprilia, especially against Marco Bezzecchi, who delivered a very strong performance in Chang International Circuit. Márquez admitted that Aprilia's performance was indeed very impressive in the season opener, but he believes his team can deliver a much stronger challenge in the upcoming race. According to him, the defeat in Buriram has actually become additional motivation for both himself and his team to come back stronger. He also stressed that his duel with Bezzecchi and the Aprilia riders could become one of the most exciting rivalries this season. All attention is now turning to the next round at the Brazilian MotoGP, which is predicted to be a major proving ground for Marquez. If he truly manages to bounce back in Brazil, the intense battle between him and the Aprilia riders could become one of the biggest storylines at the start of the MotoGP 2026 season. Aside from the Marquez storyline, fans are also focusing on the intriguing debut of Toprak Razgatlioglu in the Premier MotoGP class. After achieving huge success in the Superbike World Championship, many people were curious about how he would perform once he finally got the chance to ride a MotoGP bike. As it turns out, his debut has been quite promising. Toprak's signature aggressive racing style was immediately visible on track, making many fans start to believe that he has strong potential to compete at the highest level. At the moment, one of the riders most frequently compared to him is Fabio Quartararo. Quartararo is known as one of the fastest riders on the MotoGP grid. However, with Toprak's spectacular riding style, many believe the Turkish rider can provide serious competition. Toprak himself admits that he is still in the adaptation phase with the MotoGP bike, which is very different from the machine he previously rode in the Superbike. Nevertheless, he says he feels more comfortable every time he goes out on track. Meanwhile, another young name currently attracting attention is Pedro Acosta. The young Spanish rider continues to show very rapid progress since stepping into the Premier MotoGP class. Several analysts have even begun praising one of his key strengths on the track. According to a former MotoGP rider, Acosta's greatest advantage right now lies in his braking technique. Interestingly, in certain situations, that technique has even been described as better than Marc Márquez's. This comment is certainly quite surprising, considering Marquez has long been known as one of the riders with the most aggressive and effective braking techniques in MotoGP. However, Acosta often appears extremely brave when entering corners. He frequently brakes very late while still managing to keep the bike stable. This kind of ability is extremely important in modern MotoGP, especially during close battles on the track. However, it is not only his braking technique that has made Pedro Acosta's name increasingly talked about in the paddock. Many MotoGP observers also believe that the young Spanish rider possesses a remarkably mature racing mentality despite his relatively young age. He appears unafraid to battle against riders who are far more experienced. With the emergence of new strength from Aprilia, Toprak's promising debut, and the rapid development of Pedro Acosta, the 2026 MotoGP season seems set to become even more intense. Now, all eyes are turning to the next round in Brazil. Will Marc Márquez truly be able to bounce back and dominate once again? Write your opinion below